What's up? It's Jobringus, your favorite inefficient reg. Today it is the evening of October 30th, and I am finishing up the last of my goals for this month. This is how I do fire making. It's something like halfway to efficient. The efficient part is that I scatter ashes while I'm fire making. The inefficient part is that one, I'm burning maple logs because I'm cheap. These things are basically free. And two, um, I don't do like a particularly sophisticated pattern. This is kind of what I call my lazy fire making. I light one row like this and I just run back and then repeat. So the amount of logs I light, I haven't tracked it because I usually play in the official client rather than Runelight, but it's probably something closer to like 1,000 logs per hour, even though EHP is, I think, measured just under 1,500 logs per hour. So when you consider that I'm burning worse logs and burning less of them, I'm getting like half the fire making experience per hour as if I were burning U logs and doing it efficiently, but whatever. This is easy. It actually, it actually becomes pretty like easy for me to kind of zone out and not worry about it too much because I get a break um, every 13 or every 14 logs where I just get to click. That gives me time to, be able to check on something else, relax my wrist for a moment so I'm not constantly clicking logs. I kind of prefer that. Probably a little more sustainable for me because fire making, no matter how you slice it, just not very fun. If I get to the end game of fire making and I realize this sucks, then I'm probably going to switch to U-logs eventually, but for now it's not that big a deal and I'm sticking with maples because again they're basically free. Um, I have just about 80,000 maple logs left to go. I think there should be a couple spare in there. I didn't do the calculation super precisely, but I think I have like a couple hundred to spare. I actually realized earlier today that originally when I bought logs, I must have used the wrong experience per log or something because I had 25,000 more logs than I realized. And when I kind of tried to divide out the numbers, I think I absent-mindedly assumed that I was getting like 105 experience per log rather than 135. Either way, I don't really know how it was that I ended up with as many logs as I did, but I sold off the rest. And, there's something maybe mentally satisfying to seeing just a 5-digit stack of logs to go, and also freed up. It's kind of like it's like finding 175K in between your couch cushions, which doesn't go that far as most things on the account go, but it goes somewhere. So as you can see right now, the stats in my most recent screenshot were taken a couple minutes ago, and so I'm currently 81 fire making and 69 prayer, and I'm going to keep doing this method until 70 prayer. My goals for the month were kind of really wrapping up goals that I'd been setting on the longer term for a while. I wanted to get 80 range, which I think I had been just on the cusp of that as of the last update. 80 attack, which I did a little bit via hill giants. I got a couple giants keys and a little prayer experience that way, but it's not very. It requires a lot of attention to keep fighting hill giants, and it doesn't feel particularly rewarding. The prayer experience is one thing, but honestly, when I put it into perspective, um, I feel like AFKing at flesh crawlers with just the sheer amount of bone fragments I will eventually need, and the fact that they are relatively difficult to buy. I mean, if I'm just willing to, cross the spread and just pay as much as it takes, then sure, I could still buy them kind of fast. But even then, I'm limited to 600 a day, and it's just not all that many. So the fact that I can accumulate a decent amount of bone fragments from just really, really AFKing melee stats at flesh crawlers, quite appealing. in the scheme of things. So I finished up most of the attack grind. Probably did like 1 level at Hill Giants, and the remaining, it probably amounted to 400,000 to 500,000 experience at Flesh Crawlers, and that got me a couple hundred bone fragments, which really does add up in the long run, especially with like how many of my melee stats I've trained at Flesh Crawlers. I've got a couple thousand bone fragments that way. And I think, let's see, other levels I got. There might have been something I earned incidentally. Oh, that's right, I earned 1 cooking level because sometimes I would make wines when I didn't really feel like doing anything else or was waiting on something. And other than that, it was basically Firemaking and the prayer. I really wanted to finish out 70 prayer kind of no matter what this month. And Firemaking wasn't terribly far off. So I got to it and I decided to suck it up and spend the money on the Vile Ashes, which is not a horribly large expense. My cash stack at this point can absorb it, as long as, I certainly can't afford to grind too much prayer. I don't even know exactly. If I burnt all my money, I don't know how high of a prayer level I could get. Probably like 80, if even. No, I could get past 80, actually, I think about it, but I couldn't get too far past that. So a lot of money still needs to be saved, but we're probably going to kind of hold off prayer for a while, or maybe as I really accumulate more cash, keep doing prayer Firemaking. There's definitely going to be some point in time where I'm scatterburying, and in fair likelihood, it's if we really get to the end game of this account, we're talking like 90 plus prayer. I'll probably faster finish off Runecrafting than I will finish off prayer, just because prayer is so expensive, and that's really going to be like not just a final expense, but realistically the only major expense. I've talked about in the past. I'm just not going to do tiaras for Runecrafting. At this point, Earth Talismans are so cheap that it wouldn't be that bad. But I'm not going to pay runners to do that, and I don't really want to use alts. So if I'm doing it myself, I don't think the experience rate actually ends up being better than just solo body runes. The only maybe advantage is that I don't need bone fragments. That's pretty much it. Tiaras right now are dirt cheap, and a lot of the talismans have seriously crashed in price. Body talismans, of course, staying elevated, but if they ever do see a serious crash, then maybe I'll consider actually using them. But it's going to need to come down a lot. There's going to need to be some kind of members boss or activity, or even a free-to-play something that just drops like 100 of these things noted and the supply gets flooded. Otherwise, there's like no chance. That is all that rambling aside. I think now is a good time to kind of revisit what's next, since again this base 70s has been such a kind of long-term goal and pretty close to base 80s. I mean, a natural next goal would be finish up 80 Runecrafting and 80 prayer to get the true base 80s. And the prayer, I really don't know how I'm going to end up achieving that, because like I said, I could do it if I spent a lot of money, but I don't really want to spend that much money. It might make sense for me to push for smithing, because if I get 99 smithing, then I basically, I have access to a really good and reliable moneymaker. I think right now, runite bars are a little on the expensive end for, serious profits off of rune legs and two-handers, but I think it's still profitable, and it helps that nature runes have fallen in price a good deal. So that does mean that like the amount of money that I can spend per adamant bar or runite bar is a bit higher to get the same profit, as opposed to back when nature runes were like 180 GP. So smithing right now it's 90. So I have something like 7 million experience to go. I don't know. Let me see. No, worse. 8.5, more than 8.5 million experience. Oh no, sorry, I'm wrong. 7.6 million experience roughly. So okay, so that's not terrible, but that would take a long time. The pain with smithing is not the smithing itself. It's not terribly hard, but it's the banking the supplies. Um, if I want to kind of maximize my profit out of it, then I alch my own plate bodies. If I want to take a smaller hit just to be able to smith more, then I could try and sell them in like a clan chat. But even so, then I still have to accumulate addy bars, and I'm fairly price sensitive on them. So it's rare for me to go for more than like 500,000 to a million smithing experience at a time. Um, because it's just that's how many bars I can like accumulate. And really, if I put my whole cash stack into addy bars, I think I could afford, I could bank like 1.5 million experience before I'd have to, sell or alch the plate bodies and purchase more bars. So it's not something where I can just rest and order and try and kind of snipe low prices as they come over the course of weeks. It's like I have to be very reactive of, oh, there's a good price on addy bars right now, and I have the free cash, so let's buy up the bars and smith them now and then wait for the next opportunity to get cheap bars. That's kind of the only real major constraint I have on smithing, which makes it a little unenjoyable, but fine. Um, and I don't mind alching them because it's very mindless. I just have to keep clicking. And especially if I alch while smithing, I can sneak in, 2 to 3 alchs per inventory. So it's like not that bad. I can at least do like some degree of zero time alching, especially since with bars that gives me some free inventory space. 20 is just not divisible by 5, so or 27, I guess. I need the hammer. But we'll kind of see how that goes. But once I do get, that is like always something I have to keep in the back of my head, because once I get to the 99 smithing, I basically have access to a very good money maker. My alternate money maker is, as I've said, high alching rune items usually, which can be really profitable on a per hour basis. But again, it takes up a lot of capital just to collect those items. Um, so it's not something that I can like super reliably do. And even so, like a big part of the reason some of the rune items are worth alching is just because the buy limit's not that high. So, for me to get 1 hour of alchs might take like 2 days if I'm, buying and getting filled like all the time. So even though I can make a lot of money per hour, and it is very lucrative, again, not something that I could just continuously do. So it's hard for me to like really actively increase my cash stack right now, and that's another reason that the rune items might be more worthwhile. That said, there are some methods that are not bad for money. I've done a lot of my range training at Ogresses, and I got a little pickier about which drops I pick up. I used to just pick up like everything, and I've gotten a little pickier, and I think that's a net positive trade-off because leaving to bank does take a while. So if I leave to bank less often, then I'm pretty sure my GP per hour actually might still go up. Definitely my XP per hour goes up, obviously. But I think if I get greedier with the kills or with the drops I take, like the amount of kills I get per hour will sort of pay for doing stuff like dropping sapphires. I bring a chisel just to cut them because I might as well get the crafting experience. I've talked a million times about how silver bars are kind of currently my plan for crafting, although right now silver bars are pretty expensive, and I was actually banking a lot of them, though they got so expensive that I started to flip them for a good profit. Um, and unstrung symbols, tiaras are like totally crashing, and unstrung symbols, I would make it a slight loss. Which, if I'm going to take a little bit of a loss on crafting, at that point I might as well just cut gems, because it's like it's just faster, you know, and it's still very AFK. So the like advantage of silver bars would just be that it's like very AFK, barely any clicking per hour, and generates small amounts of profit while holding down like a very small cash stack. You know, I'm not particularly interested in making like jewelry, even though jewelry can actually be relatively profitable. Like, I think at some point emerald rings, maybe they're still very good. Diamond necklaces can be quite good, and that's pretty good experience. Um, you know, it really fluctuates on prices on what's worth making, but with some of the recent prices, since cut gems crashed a lot, I think as a result from like Tombs of Amascut drop tables, you could make like over 150 kgp per hour making like kind of low level jewelry, gold jewelry. Um, and so maybe if that gets to something like 200k, then it becomes worth my time. It's a lot more clicking because you basically have to run to the anvil, or the not the anvil, sorry, the furnace twice as often. But you know, that much GP per hour for a reg who's for a free player who's not going to pay for bonds or use alts, you know, that's something. That's definitely not nothing. So ogresses are like 100k an hour, I think. And one thing that actually surprised me when I was training most of my mining, especially 70 to 80, it was a no-brainer to just drop iron ores because they were like worthless and that was the best XP per hour. But I noticed recently iron ores are like 150 GP per hour, and I'm pretty sure in the mining guild you can get like 700 ores. So if if especially if those prices go up anymore, it might actually make sense for me to bank ores, which I never thought would happen on this account. Again, that's not like the best GP rate, but when you consider like how much of a hit I take, I think I'd have to be able to make like at least 200k an hour off another method to compete with it. Let's see, I could probably run the calculation now. And if I assume 700 ores, pretty sure it's 35 XP per ore. So let's just round that down to like 21k XP. Actually, it's better than that. That's like too much rounding. Yeah, I think it's like 24,500 XP if that multiplication's right. So it's like half the ores per hour that I'd get if I were dropping. So basically, if I value my time, if I can find a method to consistently make like over 200k an hour, I'd be better off just dropping the ores and doing that method, right? I'm better off like 1 hour power mining and 1 hour money making than 2 hours mining and banking ores. But there is some consideration to make that mining and banking ores is a little more, little less like click intensive and focus intensive. You know, when I'm power mining iron, I really can't look away from the screen. I have to be focused the whole time. And you know, if I'm just clicking, then like I don't have to worry about dropping. I simply mine it and then run to the bank. Simple as that. So, you know, it's something for me to keep in the back of my head. But, okay, I think I've gotten like sidetracked a lot here. What am I going to do in this next month? So, I think nice goal. Honestly, I might return to Runecrafting. I really like it. It would be nice to get that 80 and then figure out what to do about prayer. because if I could get to true base 80s, that would be awesome. There's a chance that I actually go for the 99 cooking this month. It wouldn't take that long. I mean, I think I have like 8 hours to go. Yeah, a little under 5 million experience. So, okay, so it's maybe more like 10 hours to go, but still, not bad at all. That's really easy to break up into like 1 to 2 hour sessions. I could bang that out in like a week. And then I probably also will do some AFK woodcutting. Actually, a lot of times my fire making method, I like to mix up the scenery of where I fire make. And recently, Drain or Bank has been a fun spot, although they added some objects kind of on the ground as part of the Halloween update. And as a result, you can't light fires in those spots anymore, so it's not like a good spot to have straight lines anymore. But that was a spot I liked because if I needed to switch to an AFK method, I could simply pull out my axe and just woodcut a bit. And I'd still like to do this trick-or-treat event for the costume. So woodcutting will accumulate some treats. I think I could really easily just get some from... I know there's a few NPCs that give you like 100 treats, but woodcutting does accumulate them pretty quickly. So I should be able to get to the costume with not that much time to go. So a little unclear of exactly what my goals are, but I think the biggest one would be runecrafting. It depends how much time I can set aside for active play. The Probably the method would take like 40 hours, I think. You know, I get somewhere around 30k XP per hour with solo body runes. So it's 40 pretty focused hours, but it's a method that I do enjoy, and I do have all the supplies banked. I've got enough. I should actually check how many teleports that's really going to require, but I should have enough bone fragments for like low to mid 80s. And with the amount of Lumbridge teleports, that should probably get me a magic level. Plus I've got some more stuff to alch. So I imagine the total level gains won't be super huge in the next month. Although at this point it's hard to squeeze out anywhere where they're going to be super huge. But hopefully do get to chip away at some tough stats. The way I train runecrafting, simply it's just going to be way under EHP. I mean, I think EHP is like 70k an hour now. So for me to get my second, what's this? I mean, I don't even know what the rank is technically called, but for me to get my second banana in the clan chat, I'm a while away. Oh, I wish I had checked temple. Maybe I can actually check it right now. I think I was somewhere in the 300s of EHP, so I've got a way to go. Yeah, I've got 373 free-to-play EHP, and so when I log out, it'll probably be like 374. So I'm a long ways away from that second banana. Again, a lot of the methods I do are just simply like way under EHP, but that's fine. I don't really know when I can hope to get the next one, and I think part of it depends, like how much time do I take to AFK skills this month. If I AFK a lot of combats or say wood cutting, that's an easy way for me to add a lot of EHP without really focusing much. I've noticed that's very easy for me to do some of those activities. Even wood cutting, which I have to check the screen fairly often, I only have to click in like the same spot once. So it's very easy for me to do that if I'm doing any chores or something like that around the house, or kind of not focused on RuneScape. Anyways, thank you all for listening to my ramble. Hope to see you guys around in the clan chat, in the comments. I actually really warmed my heart that some of you guys look forward to my monthly updates. So I'm glad to be back, and let's hope to get some good gains this month.